Good afternoon. It's time for yet another thrilling, exciting NFL draft. Bucky's Mill Day. As your host, Mike C, of course, and start the show. As always, it's Bucky. Say hi, Bucky. Bucky says hi. It's getting close, people. Only a couple weeks away to the NFL draft. I'm getting very excited. Still a lot of work to do, a lot of mocks to go through. My own and others, of course. But it's getting close. You can feel it. Now, I will admit, every year there's a time, and we're in it right now, where there's kind of in my opinion, a little bit of a lull. It's like you just want to step back and take a deep breath and let everything kind of settle before it gets totally crazy. Now, the truth, I mean, it's always it's always moving, but every year there comes a time where it's usually a week or two, usually 2 weeks before the draft. And I just like to take a step back and just reflect a little bit and let everything sink in. And we're at that spot now because the week before, it's very hectic. Obviously, the week of, it's super hectic. And I love that. But it comes a time where things kind of settle down. And this is where we're at now. And that's perfectly fine. It happens every year. But before we end that, we're going to do a little different. As you can see by Bucky's sign, it is, let's see if we can get a little bit lower. There we go. It is the Lions mock draft options at number 6. And these are different scenarios that I've come up with to see what the Lions might do. Mostly, who they're going to pick. One of them I didn't follow it through because I didn't want to do trades on there. And but who they're going to pick at 6 and 18. And these are realistic options. They're not, totally get the top 2 players or whatever like that. The only thing I did include was quarterbacks. So I don't think the Lions are going to pick a quarterback. I really don't. Maybe not, at least in the first 2 rounds. It's just not necessary. Now we're going to have a full mock draft the week of the draft. All 31 teams. It seems weird to say, but like I said, Miami doesn't have a pick in the first round. So we'll come up with something a little bit different next week. But right now we're going to do Lions mock options at 6. And the first one I have, with different players that would be there and that the Lions would pick. And chances are you're going to get one of these players, maybe 2, but we're going to concentrate on the number 6 selection. Now the first one, and I did this, in mocks like PFF and all the different ones like that. So these are, legitimate ones. I didn't, line them up for the Lions to pick. I didn't do that. The first one at 6, I got Tyree Wilson from Texas Tech. Very, very solid option. The only question, he has an injured foot, but he's versatile. He can stop the run. He's an edge defender, obviously, from Texas Tech, like I mentioned. And the more I see him, the more I watch film of him. I really like him. And if he's there and the scenario plays out, I'd be very happy with Tyree Wilson. Now my 16th pick, or 18th pick, excuse me, on this mock, Joey Porter came up. Now I was watching another mock the other day, and they also picked Joey Porter at 18, but they said he was more of a zone corner. I don't agree with that. He's more of a one-on-one, man coverage. So I'm not sure what that was all about. But yeah, sure he could play zone. I have no doubt about that. But he's more on a man-to-man coverage, which the Lions run. They don't run a zone. So the first round, that's the 2 picks I got. Tyree Wilson, Joey Porter. That's very plausible. Very possible, and I really like those 2 picks for the Lions. Now my second option, I have trade down, and I didn't follow through on that. So um, I decided not to, go all the way through because I didn't know how to do trades. Um, but I picked Anthony Richardson. Now, again, where this fell down to, I'm not sure. And that would probably not happen because somebody would trade up for a quarterback unless the top three are already gone. Then that's possible. I still wouldn't pick him in the first round. It's too much of a gamble. And the Lions really don't need a quarterback to compete right now, and they're competing, win now. So I'm not happy about that one, but it was the best option at the time. So it could have been with the Titans at 17 or 11, excuse me, not 17, not that far down. At 11, which is a possibility. They could trade down with the Raiders, which is right below them, which is a possibility. Falcons, there's lots of lots of options there, Bucky. But I don't think this first one I did, he was the best one available. I still wouldn't pick him. I'd find somebody else to pick. But there are options. Those are chances that could actually happen. And again, this is realistic. Now, the third option I have, again at 6, this one turned to be Christian Gonzalez. I really like Christian Gonzalez. I don't like the Lions picking for Witherspoon or Porter at 6, obviously. He's my corner number 1. Now, Witherspoon's a very good corner. He's a little smaller. He hits like a freight train, and that could be appealing to Dan Campbell. So it worries me a little bit. I just don't think he's the 6th best player available at 6. It's too high for him. And corners usually take a year or so to get familiarized with the situation. And that's one of the reasons Jeffrey Okudah has had trouble, because he never really got familiarized with it, plus injuries. And there's talk of trading Jeff Okudah for probably a 3rd round pick. I don't know. That's a tough one. Do you give him one more chance? And if he has a great year, you could re-sign him, franchise tag him. You could do that, or trade him at the end of the year. You probably would get less, but he's too much of a talent to give up on him. And he's had, I think, an unfair career with the Lions so far. Just my opinion. But Christian Gonzalez went 6, and then I got Nolan Smith at 17, or Bijan Robinson. They were both available, so I put both of them down. Again, very likely picks at 17. So a combination of Christian Gonzalez and either Smith or Robinson would be fantastic. You target both sides of the ball, and I'm for that. That'd be cool. My next option at 6, I got Jalen Carter. I really like Jalen Carter. It's too bad he screwed up his life. But there's 2 teams that come into mind when I think of that could really get his life back in order and really help grow and mature him. It would be the Lions and the Seahawks. And the Seahawks pick right before the Lions, so that's why Jalen Carter could go before him. So if that's the case, the quarterbacks, well, I'll finish that at the end. Then I got Peter Skoronski at offensive tackle, who's probably moved to guard. I don't know if the first year he might not. It depends, but that'd be because he'd be a great guard. And but Carter again, addressed the offensive side of the ball. 2 great choices in my opinion. Now the last one I did, I could have had Carter again, but I went with Miles Murphy. Who's kind of going back up the board, which is good because he's a very good player. And then I went Brian Brazee at defensive tackle, and Murphy's more of an edge. So that would really solidify their defense. So I got 5 different players at 6, and very good options. What I think might happen, it all depends on the quarterbacks. If they go 1 and 2, which they probably will, then the 3rd pick most likely would be Will Anderson. And then probably, and the Colts will pick another quarterback. And the Seahawks, depends on who they pick. If they pick Jalen Carter, they could pick Tyree Wilson. It depends. If the Lions are, crazy of them or Gonzalez, they would trade down because there'd be one more quarterback. That's that's a very good case scenario for that to happen. So I want to include that. If they go, top 4 quarterbacks, which is possible, I've seen it many times, then again, the Seahawks, if they pick Carter, they could go Tyree Wilson at 6. If they pick Tyree Wilson, they could go Carter. They could pass on Carter. They could pick Witherspoon. I would be very disappointed if they didn't. Going Gonzalez, I'd be much happier. Or a trade down, which would be, very good. I would love to see that. Let's say with the Titans, if they wanted Anthony Richardson, then the Lions could possibly, I don't say probably, but very possibly, get a pick this year, maybe 2, and then a number 1 next year, which would be fantastic. And so that's another, very good scenario that could happen, on draft day. As well as, Aaron Rodgers getting traded. I don't think, it doesn't seem like they're going to do it before that. So, to see Karen Rodgers, they say, I really don't think he'll sign back with the Packers. But, excuse me. But, there are different scenarios that I'm playing out here, and very likely ones. And that's why that what makes the draft so much fun, because the possibilities are, I won't say endless, but they're, there's a ton of them, and a lot of them are good. Excuse me, dang it. If it benefits the Lions, that's the best thing. They're still being talked about a lot, and that's great. And so we're getting closer. Like I said, we're in kind of, in my opinion, I won't say a downtime, just kind of a reflective time. And then, the last 2 weeks are going to be crazy, and the last week is going to be crazy, the week of the draft. And we're getting close, guys. And last week's video had 22 views, which is great because we got kind of a late start, so I want to do this a little bit earlier today. So that's great, and it wasn't titled very well, so I'm very thankful, very happy that happened. But I think we're going to call it quits, Bucky. So, for Mike C, and of course, Star Show, as always, it's Bucky. Say bye, Bucky. Bucky says bye. And it's beautiful weather here today, and this week's supposed to be in the 70s, maybe low 80s. Can't ask for anything better than that. So, be kind. Tell somebody you love them, because we don't do that enough in this world. So, we'll see you next week. Bye now.